Alex has arranged a private room in the basement for the game. He's even got a barmaid on standby to serve the drinks.
Susie, who'll be serving some drinks. I've done it rough.
It's actually Jess. The Mark meets the other players, whose money, with a little help from Paul, he plans to win. First, the players buy into the game. The Mark gets out £1,000 in cash.
How much you got there?
1,000.
The cards are in the air, and the game begins. Each player in turn acts as the dealer, shuffling the cards, handing the deck to his neighbour to cut, then dealing out the hands.
Oh yeah. Do that all night. Yeah. Keep showing.
The Mark is playing the game as he normally would, but he's really waiting for Paul's turn to deal.
Jack 5, but every time I get it, I always go. More
like this. Never over until the
30. But don't you?
Whoa!
Yeah.
I think you'll leave me there.
Oh, no.
Finally, it's time. Paul carefully manipulates the cards during a shuffle, arranging them so that the Mark will get a very strong hand. But it'll only work if Colin does his job properly. He has to cut the deck at exactly the same point Paul cut it. That way, they'll be back in the order Paul intended them to be in.
It's good, it's perfect.
Colin had just minutes to practice this move before the scam began.
Good. That's it.
This is Colin's big moment. Just one card out either way, and Paul will deal the wrong hand to the Mark.
I like it. All right, blinds in.
The Mark is unaware of the move, but knows things are going to plan when he sees the hand Paul's dealt him. A pair of kings. His job now is to get as many chips into the pot as possible and draw in his opponents with weaker cards.
Let's give the blind some value.
But everyone else folds. The Mark only wins £3. Not exactly what he had in mind. The game continues, and it's another 20 minutes before it's Paul's turn to deal again. Once more, Paul shuffles, and Colin makes the rigged cut. This time, Paul deals the Mark Ace-King, another huge poker hand.
All right, so I'll make it 20. 15's no good.
All right.
But once again, everyone folds.
Is that it?
Is that it?
Oh,
This cheating thing is not as easy as it seems, and the Mark is getting very frustrated.
Should we have a little 3-minute break? Is everyone all right with that?
That's fine. Let's have a break and get...
The game breaks for a few minutes, and the cheaters confer.
Listen, it's all well and good cheating, but no one's playing.
Paul suggests a new tactic.
That's £1,000 of my money. You put in whatever you've got. Put in whatever you've got. Buy in more chips so he's covered. And I'm going to hit him with a hand as well. It's called a double duke.
He'll not only give the Mark a big hand, he'll make sure someone else at the table also has a big hand. And the Mark should then bet as much money on that one hand as he possibly can.
So before we play, buy in for more chips. All right?
Paul gives him an additional £1,000, and the Mark borrows £500 from his mate to make sure he wins as much as possible.
Anybody wanting to top up or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll see buying.
How much?
1,500?
Another 15?
Yeah.
The Mark buys in for the extra money.
Is this someone's coat?
Oh, that's mine. Sorry, I left it upstairs.
It's all right. Someone looks over.
Oh, was that right? Did you get much out of it, or?
Excuse me, look. Did I bring you down your drink?
You did, yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
The game restarts, and it's the Mark's deal. As luck would have it, he's dealt himself 2 aces. The best starting hand in poker. And that was without Paul's help.
I'll raise.
Family pot, love it.
This time, he's getting some action from the other players.
Do that all night. Yeah. Keep showing.
The first shared cards come down in the middle of the table.
That's good for someone.
There are the other 2 aces. The Mark is now sitting with an almost unbeatable hand of 4 of a kind. and around £2,500 to play with.
Friendly, I'll just raise it.
50's the bet.
Wow. Really?
Even though this isn't one of Paul's rigged hands, he's firing out the bets.
100. Good boy.
Raise 100's the bet.
He can't believe his luck. Other players are also putting their chips in the middle. Opportunities like this don't come along very often.
I'm going to have to raise it. 200.
Okay, that was 50.
150 more.
The call was 50, the full bet's now
200 to play.
200. It's another call. 300's the bet,
What
gentlemen.
the hell?
No chance.
going on?
The final card goes down. The Mark has one of the strongest possible hands in poker, and only one other hand can beat him. But it's so unlikely, he has no choice but to get all his chips in.
I can't be that unlucky. So I'll raise all in.
You're all in. What?
I'm all in. Yeah.
Paul and Colin look a little worried. This isn't the plan they agreed. The Mark was only meant to bet big on Paul's deal, and he's betting not just with his money, but theirs too.
Wow. Really?
What's going on? I've never seen anything like this.
All right.
Holy moly.
What's that?
There's now more than £8,000 on the table.
You went all the way onto the river.
The cards are turned over.
He had the king.
Oh, he had the flush.
I got the jacks. What have you got?
Sucked out on me.
The Mark turns over his aces,
Oh, game over. What have you got?
Jack's foot. Oh, you
What have you got?
sucked out on me.
and then he sees the one hand he was dreading.
What have you got?
Another player turns over. A straight flush.
No way.
No.
Who's
He's got straight flush. He wins it. Oh, my name.
It's a disaster.
He wins it.
Not only has he lost his money, he's also managed to lose the money Paul gave him as well.
That's an expensive hand.
Wow, what a coup.
See that one coming, boy. The rest is.
I'm gone, guys.
Jesus.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The game breaks.
Well done. Well done.
See you, man.
Dude.
That's sick.
Well done.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
The Mark leaves with empty pockets, and he owes Paul another £1,000. Paul is left in silence.
It's unbelievable.
Colin tries to work out what just happened. He assumed he was going to take the Mark's money, not some random stranger.
I've never, ever seen that online.
What the hell just happened? I thought
That
the
cannot
guy.
happen. I'm sorry, it can't happen.
I thought the guy was waiting on your cue.
Okay, here's the thing. In a normal game in someone's house, the odds of that are like 6 million to 1 or something like that. The odds of that happening with you two shysters at the table are more like evens.
What are you trying to say, Colin?
Sam?
And it was brilliant.
There he is. There's the boy.
Sure enough, here's the winning player. Not some random stranger, but working for the Hustlers all along.
It was just beautiful. It was beautiful. And I'm never playing poker again with people I don't know.
So how did the Mark lose all his money on his own deal?
That's not bad.
Thank you, mate.
During the game, Jess arranged a duplicate deck of cards into a prearranged order. She then slipped it into Alex's coat pocket. She hung the jacket over the back of Alex's chair whilst the game was in mid-flow.
Much out of it, or?
And when the Mark had the maximum amount of chips in front of him, she waited until he'd shuffled the cards. Then asked him about his drinks order.
Excuse me, love. Did I bring you down your drink?
The tiny moment of distraction was all Alex needed to switch the shuffled deck for the rigged one.
Down your drink. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Anytime you like that.
The Mark then passed out the cards, not knowing he was dealing himself a hand that no poker player would be able to pass.
I'm all in. Yeah.
From this point on, he was guaranteed to lose every penny in his pocket.
He's got straight flush.
No way.